There is a moment when men lose power without noticing, not in defeat, not in failure, but in reaction, a raised voice, a defensive explanation, an emotional response given too quickly. In that instant, control transfers hands. Machiavelli understood this before courts, before corporations, before modern politics. The man who feels most is ruled. The man who reacts is readable. The man who remains unmoved becomes untouchable. Detachment is not coldness. It is sovereignty. Today, you will understand why the emotionless man always wins. Emotion is a lever they use against you. Emotion is never neutral. It is information. It signals value, priority, and vulnerability at the same time. The moment you react strongly, you are not merely expressing a feeling, you are declaring what matters to you, what unsettles you, and what can be used against you. People do not need to ask where your weakness is. You show it for them. When a man reacts emotionally, he shortens the distance between his inner world and the outside observer. That distance is where power lives. The smaller it becomes, the easier it is to enter, influence, and disrupt. A raised voice, a defensive tone, an urgent explanation, all of these are invitations. They tell others exactly which button produces movement. Defending yourself feels natural, but it is strategically foolish. The act of defense implies vulnerability. It suggests that an accusation landed close enough to matter. Those watching do not analyze the truth of the claim. They study your response. If you rush to correct, you confirm importance. If you argue, you elevate the attacker. If you justify, you surrender authority. Seeking reassurance is even worse. It exposes dependence. The man who needs emotional confirmation hands power to whoever can provide or withhold it. From that point forward, your stability no longer belongs to you. It belongs to the room. Machiavelli understood that rulers fall not because of what they do, but because of how they react. He warned against visible inner turmoil because human beings are predators of reaction. They may pretend to care about intentions, but they instinctively read behavior. They do not listen closely to your words. They observe what provokes you, what irritates you, what unsettles your composure. Anger tells them where to apply pressure. Defensiveness tells them where the structure is weak. Attachment tells them what to threaten. Every emotional response sketches a map, and once the map exists, it will be used. The detached man denies them this advantage. He does not rush to react. He does not clarify unnecessarily. He does not offer emotional signals that can be decoded. His inner state remains inaccessible. There is nothing to grab, nothing to pull, nothing to manipulate. Without leverage, influence fails. Power begins where emotional visibility ends. What cannot be moved cannot be steered. What cannot be steered cannot be controlled. 2. Detachment creates psychological fear. Fear is rarely born from violence. It is born from uncertainty. People are not intimidated by what they understand. They are unsettled by what they cannot read. Detachment removes clarity, and where clarity disappears, fear quietly enters. Most men try to inspire respect through force, volume, or constant presence. They speak more, they explain more, they react faster. In doing so, they believe they are asserting dominance. In reality, they are making themselves predictable. Predictability comforts others, and comfort destroys fear. The detached man operates differently. His responses are delayed. His emotions are muted. His intentions are unclear. When people interact with him, they leave unsure of where they stand. They replay conversations in their mind. They question whether they impressed him, disappointed him, or misjudged him. That internal uncertainty does more damage than any threat ever could. Machiavelli understood that power depends not on how much people like you, but on how cautiously they treat you. Caution is born when others do not know the consequences of crossing you. Detachment conceals those consequences. It forces others to imagine them. When you remain calm in moments where emotion is expected, people sense depth. When you show no reaction where reaction is normal, people assume calculation. They begin to attribute strength, foresight, and control to you, even if you said nothing at all. Silence invites projection, and projection magnifies power. The emotionally expressive man reassures others unintentionally. They know how to provoke him. They know what will anger him and what will soften him. The detached man offers no such comfort. His lack of visible reaction creates psychological distance, and distance breeds respect mixed with fear. Fear does not require hostility. It requires mystery. Detachment sustains mystery effortlessly. It keeps others guessing, adjusting, and restraining themselves. They hesitate before speaking. They measure their actions. They second-guess their boldness. This hesitation is not weakness on their part. It is submission in its earliest form. The man who cannot be read becomes a problem no one wants to test. E. The one who needs least controls most. Power obeys a simple hierarchy. The man who needs less always stands above the man who needs more. Need creates urgency. Urgency creates concession, and concession erodes authority. This law operates quietly, but it governs every interaction, social, political, and personal. The moment you need something from someone, approval, validation, loyalty, affection, agreement, the balance shifts. You begin to adjust yourself. You soften your tone. You explain more than necessary. You tolerate behavior you would otherwise reject. All of this happens subconsciously, but others feel it immediately. Need is visible even when it is unspoken. Machiavelli observed that rulers who relied emotionally on allies, friends, or the favor of the crowd were never truly sovereign. Their power was conditional. Conditional power is not power at all. It is permission that can be revoked. Detachment removes this condition. When you are not emotionally invested in outcomes, people sense it. They recognize that you are not bargaining from desperation, but from choice. You can walk away. You can wait. You can deny without loss. This freedom unsettles those who depend on leverage to feel secure. The man who needs least does not chase. Others move toward him instead. They attempt to please him, impress him, earn his attention. His indifference creates gravity. His calm refusal to grasp signals abundance, not of resources, but of options. Attachment makes you negotiable. Detachment makes you fixed. A fixed position forces others to adjust their behavior. A negotiable man adjusts himself. In relationships, the attached man explains his boundaries. The detached man enforces them silently. In leadership, the needy leader seeks loyalty through closeness. The detached leader receives loyalty because distance makes approval valuable. In conflict, the emotionally invested man escalates to protect his ego. The detached man waits, allowing the other side to exhaust itself. Detachment does not mean apathy. It means independence of outcome. You act because it is strategic, not because you fear loss. You speak because it is necessary, not because silence makes you uncomfortable. Machiavelli understood that the most dangerous position is to want something badly in front of others. Want can be sensed, and what is sensed can be exploited. The man who can lose without collapse becomes impossible to corner. The man who does not cling cannot be threatened. The man who stands complete on his own terms forces the world to come to him. Power does not belong to the one who desires most. It belongs to the one who can afford not to. IV. Detachment protects your reputation. Reputation is not built through explanation. It is built through restraint. The moment a man begins managing how he is perceived emotionally, he weakens the very image he is trying to protect. Nothing erodes authority faster than visible concern over reputation. Most men panic when their image is challenged. They rush to clarify. They correct narratives. They argue publicly. They believe silence equals guilt. In reality, emotional defense is the true admission of vulnerability. It tells observers that the accusation struck close enough to matter. Machiavelli understood that reputation lives in perception, not truth. People do not investigate deeply. They infer, they read tone, they interpret posture, they measure confidence. A man who reacts emotionally appears uncertain, and uncertainty invites doubt. Detachment interrupts this process. When you do not respond immediately, others assume deliberation. When you do not explain, they assume superiority. When you refuse to engage emotionally, the accusation loses oxygen. Most attacks rely on reaction to survive. Starve them, and they collapse on their own. The emotionally reactive man fights every rumor and ends up amplifying them. The detached man lets silence do the work. Over time, observers associate his calm with innocence, strength, or irrelevance to petty disputes. All three outcomes favor power. Detachment also prevents self-inflicted damage. Emotional responses often reveal more than the original accusation ever could. A defensive explanation exposes internal insecurity. An angry rebuttal exposes pride. A desperate clarification exposes fear. These are stains that linger longer than words spoken against you. Machiavelli advised rulers to appear unshaken, even when threatened, not because they were invulnerable, but because appearing unshaken preserved legitimacy. Authority exists only as long as people believe it is intact. The detached man understands this instinctively. He does not rush to repair what is not broken. He allows time to reframe events in his favor. He trusts that composure outlasts noise. Reputation is not protected by fighting for it. It is protected by refusing to look wounded. Emotion makes you predictable. Predictability is the quiet enemy of power. The moment others can anticipate your emotional response, they can plan around you, provoke you, and control the direction of every interaction. Émotion create patterns. Patterns create expectation. Expectation eliminates fear. Most men believe consistency is strength. In power, consistency of emotion is exposure. If anger reliably follows disrespect, you will be baited. If guilt reliably follows pressure, you will be cornered. If affection reliably follows praise, you will be managed. None of this requires malice. Human beings naturally test what works. Machiavelli valued adaptability above moral purity because rigid behavior collapses under strategic pressure. A man who reacts the same way each time becomes a mechanism, not a force. Mechanisms are easy to operate. Detachment dissolves these patterns. When reactions are restrained, delayed, or absent, observers lose their script. They no longer know which action produces which response. Provocation becomes risky. Manipulation becomes uncertain. Even confrontation loses confidence. The emotionally expressive man comforts his adversaries without realizing it. They know how far they can push him. They know when he will snap and when he will soften. That knowledge removes hesitation. And when hesitation disappears, dominance follows. The detached man restores hesitation. His calm disrupts timing. His silence interrupts momentum. Others hesitate not because he threatens them, but because they cannot forecast the outcome. This uncertainty forces restraint. Detachment also preserves strategic flexibility. When you are not emotionally committed to a single outcome, you can shift tactics without inner resistance. You can retreat without humiliation. You can advance without rage. You can wait without anxiety. Each option remains available. Machiavelli understood that the ruler who masters himself masters the field. Emotional predictability hands initiative to others. Detachment reclaims it. The man who cannot be read cannot be rushed. The man who cannot be rushed cannot be controlled. Detachment allows strategic cruelty. Cruelty guided by emotion is chaos. Cruelty guided by detachment is order. This distinction is what separates the tyrant from the ruler, the brute from the strategist. Emotion clouds judgment. Detachment sharpens it. Most men avoid difficult decisions because they feel too much. They delay punishment. They excuse betrayal. They tolerate disrespect longer than they should, not because it is wise, but because discomfort frightens them. They confuse mercy with weakness and hesitation with morality. Machiavelli was precise on this point. He did not advocate cruelty for pleasure. He advocated cruelty for stability. When correction is required, it must be decisive, measured, and unemotional. Anything else invites decay. Detachment allows you to act without inner resistance. You do not lash out in anger, revealing loss of control. You do not hesitate out of guilt, allowing disorder to spread. You act because the action is necessary, not because you feel provoked. An emotional man punishes inconsistently. His mood dictates severity. This confuses subordinates and emboldens challengers. A detached man is feared not because he is harsh, but because he is predictable in consequence and unreadable in emotion. There is no emotional appeal that can soften him. There is no outburst that can provoke him into excess. This emotional distance is what makes discipline effective. When punishment is delivered calmly, without explanation or pleasure, it carries weight. It feels final. It feels deliberate. Others do not perceive cruelty, they perceive inevitability. Detachment also prevents revenge-driven decisions. Emotional cruelty seeks relief. Strategic cruelty seeks resolution. One escalates conflict, the other ends it. Machiavelli understood that unresolved disorder multiplies. A single unchecked betrayal invites many more. A single tolerated violation teaches others the limits of enforcement. Detachment gives you the clarity to cut decisively, early, and without remorse. The ruler who feels too deeply hesitates. Hesitation spreads weakness. Weakness invites challenge. Cruelty, when required, must be clean. And only the detached man can keep his hands steady. The emotionless man sets the frame. Power is not exercised through reaction. It is exercised through framing. The man who controls the frame controls how events are interpreted, how actions are judged, and how authority is perceived. Emotion pulls you inside someone else's frame. Detachment keeps you above it. Most men fight battles they did not choose. They answer accusations they did not authorize. They explain intentions to audiences that never deserved access. In doing so, they accept the frame imposed on them. Once that happens, the outcome no longer belongs to them. The emotional man reacts to pressure. He responds to provocation. He defends against narratives. Each reaction confirms the legitimacy of the attack. Each response strengthens the frame he should have rejected. Machiavelli understood that the strongest rulers do not deny, debate, or justify. They move as if the accusation never existed. This is not arrogance. It is hierarchy. The higher position does not explain itself to the lower. Detachment allows you to refuse engagement without appearing weak. Silence forces others to speak more. Calm forces others to escalate emotionally. Over time, they expose desperation while you project control. The frame shifts quietly, not through argument, but through contrast. The emotionless man decides what matters and what does not. He does not allow others to dictate urgency. He does not chase relevance. He does not grant legitimacy to every challenge. His lack of reaction signals authority so deep, it does not need defense. Those around him begin to adjust. They choose words more carefully. They hesitate before challenging. They seek approval rather than confrontation. The frame has moved, and they feel it instinctively. Machiavelli knew that authority is maintained not by force, but by perception of inevitability. The detached man appears inevitable. He does not rush. He does not explain. He does not compete. He sets the pace. He sets the tone. He sets the meaning. And everyone else reacts within his world. The man who controls his emotions controls the narrative. The man who controls the narrative controls the outcome. Detachment is not emptiness. It is command over oneself. It is the discipline to feel without displaying, to observe without reacting, to act without being pulled by impulse. The world rewards emotional exposure with momentary relief, then punishes it with long-term weakness. Power moves in the opposite direction. It grows in restraint. Machiavelli understood what most men refuse to accept. Those who show their inner world surrender control of it. Emotion, once visible, becomes a tool in someone else's hand. Detachment removes that tool entirely. The emotionless man is not cold because he lacks feeling. He is cold because he governs it. He allows others to reveal themselves while he remains unread. He lets noise exhaust itself while he stands intact. He does not rush to be understood, liked, or forgiven. He does not chase control. He becomes immovable. And in a world addicted to reaction, the man who does not react becomes sovereign.